Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chanda Baba Girivardhari Gopi Chanda Baba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuda Tira Vanachari Yamuda Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Bhava Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuda Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, today we read from Srila Prabhupada Nectar book. We started up and left off in the middle of one section. I think we'll just start that section again. If anyone's reading from the book somewhere, it would be on page 319, number 43, personal. So just read. Personal, his method of teaching. Prabhupada taught from an elementary level of Krishna consciousness up to the highest point of the philosophy. And this he did in his books, his talks, and his actions. He was strongly against people taking Krishna consciousness cheaply, such as the Prakrita Sahajias do. Therefore, he repeatedly stressed that one must first understand, I am not this body. As a compassionate teacher, Prabhupada gave people as much Krishna consciousness as they could assimilate and as was best for their advancement. But his writings ranged from the gamut. But his writings ranged the gamut from preliminary teachings of the Bhagavad Gita all the way to the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the intimate Leela of Krishna and the Gopis. Furthermore, since Srila Prabhupada was preaching in the 20th century, he had to confront the heavy forces of atheism represented by Darwinism, Marxism, and Freudism. He wrote and spoke to establish God's existence, the need for God in human society, Varnashram Dharma, and to defeat the scientific theory that life comes from matter. The defense of Krishna consciousness did not consist of very easily accepted lessons. Krishna consciousness had to be presented with logic and with boldly attacking the opposition. Because Prabhupada was representing the Vaishnava Sampradaya from Lord Chaitanya, he continually opposed the Mayavadi philosophy. Lord Chaitanya himself always spoke on the basis of the Vedanta Sutra, establishing the absolute truth as the Supreme Person whenever he met with leading scholars. Lord Chaitanya's talks about Radha and Krishna were reserved for a few people, such as Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar. Srila Prabhupada followed this parampara of Lord Chaitanya by constantly giving arguments against Mayavadism and by stressing the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Revealing the higher aspects of Krishna consciousness was a matter of time, person, and place. Srila Prabhupada gave the highest nectar, the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna, in a way fresher than ever. Rupa Goswami, in his prayer to Lord Chaitanya, praised the Lord for giving the highest truth more freely than anyone had given before. And that is also true of Srila Prabhupada's magnanimous gift. Without discrimination, Srila Prabhupada presented the Krishna book in 1969, explained in the form of a summary study so it would not be misunderstood. He also guided his devotee artists to paint pictures of Radha and Krishna as the very first paintings in his time, along with pictures of Krishna and the 8 principal gopis, the Rasa dance, and Radha and Krishna when they swing. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj states that at first he hesitated to tell the most confidential Leela of Lord Chaitanya, but then he went ahead and wrote, after he considered that the foolish people would not be able to understand and would neglect the confidential knowledge, whereas the sincere devotees would appreciate it. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada went ahead and presented Krishna book, even though it is the 10th canto and the most confidential part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Soon after this, Prabhupada presented the Nectar of Devotion, in which Krishna is repeatedly described as the most attractive youth, as the transcendental lover of Radharani. But both of those books, Krishna book and the Nectar Devotion, had been published just shortly before I joined the movement. They were there on display in the Gainesville Temple when I first joined. As soon as Srila Prabhupada as soon as Srila Prabhupada's followers became even the slightest bit advanced, Prabhupada brought them to a standard of worshiping Radha and Krishna in the temple. Then he introduced the disciples to dressing, feeding, bathing, and putting to rest their lordships Radha and Krishna. As a teacher, he trained them just as his spiritual master had taught. Quote, "Don't try to see Krishna and act in such a way that Krishna can see you." By unavoided service in the Krishna consciousness movement, by preaching, by taking the trouble to elevate the masses of people, and working when necessary with materialistic people, the devotee would earn the right to understand more and more about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was the topmost Paramahamsa sannyasi, yet he appeared in humble saffron. He restrained himself from displays of ecstatic tears, although it was sometimes not possible to entirely restrain them. He showed the ideal behavior and balance in life that cannot be imitated, but only strived for and followed. Avaduta, or antisocial behavior, was not Prabhupada's mission, but rather he appeared as the perfect Vaishnava for all to follow in ISKCON, the saintly teacher, the ecstatic devotee. He was a fighter, a preacher, a relisher of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and Mayapur, as well as a relisher of the continued pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, and the Krishna consciousness movement in Bombay, London, New York, Moscow, and many other places. But Srila Prabhupada, he certainly was extraordinarily advanced in Krishna consciousness movement, there's no question. But he hid these the symptoms. A pure devotee, someone on the level of Srila Prabhupada would naturally, constantly have tears coming from the eyes, and so many ecstatic symptoms that are described in Nectar Devotion. But Srila Prabhupada tried his best to hide these symptoms. He didn't want that to become. He didn't want anyone to get distracted by that. He simply acted as a simple devotee to teach us, because we would learn by Srila Prabhupada's example. He taught, and what he did, which is what we would learn. Srila Prabhupada is far more transcendental beyond that. Srila Prabhupada even says that when we eventually gradually become very advanced in spiritual life, even when we become completely advanced, we should still act, he said, on the neophyte platform. Neophyte in this sense means that although you're Krishna conscious, but you're still, as a neophyte, as a non-perfected soul, we are always thinking, and we're always striving to keep chanting our grounds, trying to chant better, trying to follow the principles, trying to just always take a simple, humble position. So even if we become fully Krishna conscious, Srila Prabhupada said we should act on it as devotees who are attached and require these basic principles that we are following now. And why? Two reasons. Why? One reason why Just because, first of all, if you start thinking that I am really advanced, I'm so advanced, so therefore I don't need to chant my rounds anymore. I don't need to follow the principles anymore because I'm already self-realized. See? But so even if we are thinking, even if we are not advanced, and we start thinking I'm advanced, and we give these things up, then of course that ruins our spiritual life. And the other reason is that if we are advanced, then of course we don't require to follow everything so strictly. Still, we should follow it as an example for others. Still, we should follow it. So going on, when one thinks of many qualities of Prabhupada, when one thinks of the many qualities of Prabhupada, that thinking itself brings one to the highest nectarian spiritual platform. Hearing of Radha and Krishna from Srila Prabhupada, or hearing about Arjuna from Srila Prabhupada, is the best way to enter the confidential knowledge of Krishna consciousness. No one has a higher teacher or better realized knower of Shastra or more compassionate worker among the people of this age. No one has a higher teacher or better realized knower of Shastra or a more compassionate worker among the people of this age. So Prabhupada is of course the best teacher and the best preacher. So, and we go on to the next section, number 44, realizations. This was written by Krishna Gopal Das. I went to one darshan with Prabhupada. Prabhupada was sitting in a very casual pose, with one leg stretched out and the other propped up. His hand was resting by his side, and although he was leaning back, his head was erect. When Prabhupada asked for questions, I knew I had to ask him a question. I thought I would ask something that meant a lot to me, something that was troubling me. I asked Prabhupada, quote, how does one become humble and how does one stay humble? I had the tendency when I was distributing the most books in the temple to become proud. I wanted to know what to do. Prabhupada looked at me and then looked over to Harikesh Maharaj and said, tell him what I told them in Chicago. Harikesh Swami said that there was one Sankirtan girl in Chicago who had asked Srila Prabhupada a similar question. And Prabhupada had replied that she should be like a lion in the chase, but a lamb at home. A lion in the chase and the lamb at home. So how was Sankirtan? Go for it. Get those books out. Preach. Defend Srila Prabhupada's movement. And at home, we're just humble devotees around here. While I was absorbing this reply, I was looking at Prabhupada, and he was looking back at me. Then suddenly a great surge came from Srila Prabhupada, and he said, almost yelling, be aggressive for Krishna, then it is successful. There are two things. First, if I am aggressive, I should be aggressive in my service for Krishna. And second, I should be aggressive also in trying to get Krishna's mercy. So both ways, aggressive to preach and aggressive to get the mercy. I had asked Prabhupada how to become humble, but he said the opposite thing. And now I have found out that it is by aggression that I am factually the humblest. Because to be aggressive, you have to surrender. Within those few words, Prabhupada had actually given me the essence of Krishna consciousness, written by Krishna Gopal Das. And then actually, yes, we have to be very aggressive, very enthusiastic, very eager to get Krishna's mercy. In fact, Nectar Devotion explains that, especially, it applies all the way through. When we get up to the point of bhava means there's no more material desire. There's no desire. You have some attraction for Krishna. You might even know what your eternal relationship with Krishna is. That's you're on that level. But to go from bhava to Krishna prema, what is required? Required is to develop a very, very, very intense desire to come to that platform. It's not that we're following, not that you are in the stage of bhava and you're still struggling to follow the regular principles or chant my rounds every day. No, that bhava, that's there. You're fixed in that. But go from bhava to Krishna prema means that you've got to just increase your hankering, your spiritual hankering, your desire more and more and more to actually enter in your relationship with Krishna. Not just to know who you might be, what your relationship is, but actually to fully enter into it. That is that intense hankering is what's required to go from bhava to Krishna. Prabhupada explains that in that really. So going on, Bhumi Devi Dasi and I were distributing books. Oh, this has been Sunita Devi Dasi. So Bhumi Devi Dasi and I were distributing books at the airport when Srila Prabhupada was departing. He had managed to get into the departure lounge. No other devotees were there except Prabhupada, Jayadvaita, and Shrutakirti. We were in ecstasy, Bhumi and I, because here was Srila Prabhupada, but he didn't know we were there. We knew that he was there, and we told the people, see that this gentleman? He's the one who wrote this book. He translated these books. People began to look at the books and look at Prabhupada. We distributed many books in half hour, in the half hour that Prabhupada was there. The Jayadvaita told Prabhupada that we were distributing his books. Prabhupada looked at us. He had a big smile. He was nodding his head. He was very pleased. And of course, this was a source of great encouragement for us. We didn't want any personal darshan. We just wanted Prabhupada to know that we were distributing his books. I remember I used to look at the Sankirtan board in the temple, and they used to write slogans like, "We have to make Prabhupada the most famous man in the whole world." I used to think, yes, that's what we have to do. That used to impress me very much, and that's why I wanted to do Sankirtan so much, because we have to make Prabhupada the most famous person in the world. Another time, we were again distributing books at the airport when Prabhupada was leaving. This was in 1976 in New York after Rath Yatra, when Srila Prabhupada was feeling sick. He was about to leave. I was distributing at the VOAC Airlines in Carmi Close. We just wanted to see Prabhupada, and it wasn't my intention to be obvious and stand in front of him. But when I was in the middle of distributing a book to a man, Prabhupada happened to pass right by me. I was so nervous. I said, "Oh my God, oh my God." I didn't mean to do that. As Prabhupada passed, he saw his book and stopped a little bit. Then he looked, and Tamal Krishna Goswami said, "That's Sunita Prabhupada. She distributed your books." Prabhupada said, "Acha." And he turned around and looked at me. Very nice, he said. Then he raised his hands, giving his blessings. That was another source of great encouragement for us. We really didn't want anything else from him, just that he knew we were distributing his books. So he did Devi Das. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada was always very pleased to see the villagers distributing books. When Srila Prabhupada had visited the Gainesville temple back when I was there, Srila Prabhupada was at the airport. I think he flew out of Jacksonville airport. So he was there waiting, and the devotees were all around him, sitting there, sitting in the seat, and the devotees are singing Jai Prabhupada, whatever they're saying like that. So that was going on, but he wasn't paying attention to that. He was looking at behind everyone, and there was one devotee who was out there selling his books to people in the airport. So that's Srila Prabhupada he had his eye on them. He didn't see everyone else there. That was us. The much interest of Srila Prabhupada to see everyone singing, glorifying, those kind of things. He was just happy to see someone's out there actually preaching. That was Readilng was the one who was selling the books at that time. Number 45, realizations. In Mayapur, in February of 1977, when Prabhupada first started to get really sick, we were taking turns sitting in his bedroom with him. He was just lying in his bed, so one person would always have to be there. I had a shift of about one hour a day, where I would sit next to Prabhupada's bed. If he coughed, you would have to make sure he had his spittoon there and a handkerchief to wipe his face, or you would help him with his blanket, or give him some water, or help him go to the bathroom, things like that. Prabhupada was so sick that he was sometimes moaning, and he could not sleep because he would be coughing so much. Sometimes he would fall off to sleep for an hour or so. I had been sitting there for quite a while. It was dark, and Prabhupada was sleeping. Then all of a sudden he opened his eyes and said, "Have you ever been to Allahabad?" I said, "No, Srila Prabhupada." Srila Prabhupada went, After that he went back to rest. I was amazed how out of nowhere he had opened his eyes and asked me that. Then after another while, he was resting. He opened his eyes and said, "Is the model of the new building here yet?" I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada. Surabhi Swami brought it, and it's just outside the window." Prabhupada said, "Ah." Then he began to rest again, and so it went. He would sleep for some time, then suddenly open his eyes and ask a very specific question, and go back to sleep again. I could see that he wasn't like us. When we sleep, we just go completely unconscious. Even while moaning and coughing, sleeping, Srila Prabhupada was meditating on preaching. That was written by a devotee named Radha Ballabhadas. It's Srila Prabhupada also, when he would wake up, we may experience that we sleep and we're really tired, and comes time to wake up, and we're trying to shake off the sleep so it can get going. But Srila Prabhupada, when he would rest, or when he woke up, immediately he's already he's wide awake, and he's giving instructions and preaching and everything. And he never showed any sense of being and I fall in the mode of ignorance when I go to sleep, and mind goes wherever it goes during the sleep time. Srila Prabhupada would wake up, and he was completely, when he woke up, he was wide awake and completely good, full consciousness, which means the whole time he was completely thinking about Krishna. And that's actually the meaning of it. So another section here, written by Sangeeta Devi Dasi. Srila Prabhupada's quarters in Hawaii took up the top floor and faced the front of the temple. His servants also had one bedroom. One day, while Srila Prabhupada was there, I was standing and talking with Kusha. We were redoing Prabhupada's Vyasa and talking about the best type of glue to use to put on jewels. I was going on and on about how when I was in New Dwarka, we used a certain kind of glue. All of a sudden, someone came over and said, "Do you know that Srila Prabhupada is standing by the open window listening to everything you are saying?" We looked up and immediately paid our obeisances. I felt so embarrassed. He was just watching us the whole time. Later, I reflected on the experience and realized that if we just remember Srila Prabhupada, he is always with us. We can carry on whole conversations as if Prabhupada is standing there listening, and our feelings and everything should be conducted just as if Prabhupada were here. He is with us. As much as you love him, that's how much he is present in the heart of the disciple. So we're always thinking about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is with us. He is with us. It's not that Srila Prabhupada is, left this world so many years ago. But if we're thinking about Srila Prabhupada, he's present, and he's present in his thoughts of him. He's present in his service to him, like that. Another section, number 46. Palika Devi Dasi regularly cooked with Srila Prabhupada, and she recalls his favorite preparations. Quote, "A first favorite of Prabhupada was always kachoris, especially Urdhva kachoris. In sweets, he liked sandesh and rasgullas. Also, he liked a good hot jalebi. With every meal, there had to be a bitter vegetable made with chlorella, bitter melon, or neem leaves. He liked neem bhajam very much. The preparation mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada loved urd dal, and he taught me to make it with fennel, ginger, and asafoetida. All these must be in the chants. Okay. Fennel, ginger, and asafoetida. Actually, Srila Prabhupada enjoyed a wide variety of foods. Once for weeks, he would have khichdi daily with vegetables in it, and lots of ghee, and hot puris and bhajam bhaji, deep fried eggplant. That and nothing else. I would put the khichdi in his big rice bowl, and sometimes he would ask for seconds. If Prabhupada was hungry in the evening, he would take different things according to his taste. Many times a ghee vegetable and puris with hot milk. I would generally use mishri, sugar candy, or rock candy rather than sugar. Sometimes he wanted milk only or a tangerine. Often he would have mori, puffed rice, with peanuts and milk. I remember a few times he would request me to give a dish, leave a dish or two of sandwich on the bookshelf in case he became hungry or translating in the night. But always except once or twice, however, the sandwich would be there in the morning. It means he didn't. He had it if he got hungry, but most of the time he didn't eat it. Also, for months, Srila Prabhupada had me prepare vadas and coconut chutney for breakfast, and dahi vadas for lunch. Vadas are they're made from dal. You grind it up, make patties, and you fry them. You fry them in ghee, so the dahi vadas are hard, they're crispy. Srila Prabhupada had me make vadas and coconut chutney for breakfast, and dahi vadas for lunch. He liked the preparations and he remarked on them often. He had yogurt with his lunch every day. As time passed, it became a rule that whenever there was khichdi, there must be khadi. Madhuri Dasi, who also cooked for Prabhupada, recalls the time she watched Prabhupada eating in Surat. One day, he finished his lunch, and they gave him a whole banana. Prabhupada started to peel the banana, but never saw anyone peel a banana like he did. He didn't touch it at all with his left hand. He picked it up in his right hand and started to peel it with his teeth, pulling the strips down with his teeth and then picking out the white part in the center. Then pulling the white part away, he let the whole banana skin drop from his teeth. He did this without touching it with his left hand. Anir Deshpur Das used to cook for Prabhupada in Mayapur, and he noted Prabhupada's particular taste for golden raisins. We gave Prabhupada different kinds of dried fruit. He liked golden raisins from China. Aside from these golden raisins, of course, there were the regular black raisins, and also the common golden raisins from the West. In the West, they take the black raisins and put sulfur in them to turn them golden. Once a devotee who knew about natural foods would not allow us to give the golden raisins because they had sulfur dioxide in them and were unnatural and were not good. They gave Prabhupada the black raisins. Prabhupada looked at them and he wasn't very happy. He said, "These look like little black flies. You don't have gold ones?" Yes, so probably like the golden colored raisins. This next section is a little bit long. Any questions? Any questions, comments, realizations? No, that's vada. Vada. Kofta is made of vegetables. Like cauliflower and potatoes, for example, and you grate it up and mix a little flour to make little balls, and then you fry those. The vada is vada means you take some kind of dal and you soak it, and then you grind it up till it becomes like a paste, and then you put some spices in it, and you take little bits of it, and you fry it in ghee, and it gets cooked, and again, vada means it becomes hard, crispy. And then they have dahi bada, and that, so you can soak it in yogurt. Dahi is yogurt, and there's also dahi wada, which is the same kind of thing, but it's soft, and it's not, the vada is hard, and wada is soft.
Dahi water.
Yeah, here we were talking about dahi vada. Yeah. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll finish in for today, and tomorrow continue Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.